What about you, Bud? What's a team or maybe a game that showed up to you where you were thinking about the stakes and most to gain, most to lose?
I mean, I think you have to look at UCLA LSU, right? This is a very season-defining game for LSU. It is a potentially springboard game for UCLA. The line is down to 3. Glad I cashed in on UCLA last week because that thing certainly got hit after how they looked. But look closer in that performance. I'm really intrigued as to how this thing is going to go. Obviously, a lot of stakes for both these teams. UCLA didn't show a whole lot in their run game. They basically ran the same couple plays over and over again. They did some stuff where they had the back same side, but ultimately, if they have some wrinkles planned, they didn't really show a whole lot of it. They didn't throw a lot of RPOs off some of those looks. They did scheme some guys open against Hawaii, but Dorian Thompson-Robinson, he missed them. I think that the actual styles of this game matchup is going to be really intriguing. So LSU is one of those teams that I'm very confident can man up and play UCLA. UCLA's receivers, I don't think are that good. I think their tight ends are pretty nice. I like their offensive line. But UCLA or LSU to stop the run, and they were a poor run-stopping team last year. How much of that do you want to attribute to Bo Pelini, and how much of that do you want to attribute to maybe their front seven not being all that great against the run? I anticipate LSU trying to play a lot of man, a lot of single high, daring UCLA to win on the outside with those receivers and to combat the run game by throwing numbers at it, right? They're going to try to be +1 in the box to fill those gaps. Does Chip Kelly have some tricks up his sleeve for them? I don't think LSU is going to just physically whip them at the point of attack, but they could outnumber them. That's very foreseeable. Can Chip Kelly scheme guys open on offense? If they get a lot of that one rat look, they're probably, I know they try to run mesh a lot, but they're probably not going to run, a ton of mesh. They'll run their Y cross stuff. They'll run their 4 vert stuff, but that's going to come down to, can Dorian Thompson-Robinson hit guys right there? Now, on the other side of this game, I think it's also fascinating because UCLA is an extremely veteran team. They have a good front seven. They're pretty physical. I think they have some speed on the back end, but they're going to try to confuse and get a whole lot of free runners at the quarterback. Max Johnson, who won the job by default, although they're very excited about Max Johnson, and they're really excited about their receivers there in Baton Rouge. Although Houston this week, obviously our thoughts and prayers are with the folks in Louisiana who are still without power. LSU's practicing, I believe, in Houston this week. LSU's, their pass protection last year was okay. Their run game was not very good. New offensive coordinator trying to throw it back to the Joe Brady days. I'm just fascinated by this matchup. I really think there's a lot of fun scheme stuff to watch here. How many free runners at Max Johnson can UCLA create? What level of risk are they willing to take in order to create those free runners? Because they loved all those blitz packages they have. And can LSU run the ball?
Is one rat cover one with a cover one robber?
Yes.
Almost the same thing. Sorry. Will you give a quick for the listeners, because we've had listeners in the mailbag. And by the way, have y'all done your St. Jude call yet?
I did 2 of them.
I'm doing mine this afternoon.
So Thomas, thank you so much for your charitable contributions. He revealed himself to be like a mailbag all-star. For 2 years, going back to those early off-season 19 or 20 mailbags, he's given us some goodies. I'm not going to reveal his Apple Review username, but it was great to have a conversation with him. He's going to continue to listen. I'm sure that he's listening to this right now, and it reminded me that the mailbag is going to be something that we're going to work in here. We're not going to leave it alone once we get into the rhythm of the season. In fact, now that we have some, hard games and storylines and narratives to break down, I'll be honest, I'm more excited about that than I am about another conference realignment hypothetical. Much love to all the conference realignment hypotheticals, but leave a 5-star review and leave your question within that. Thank you to Thomas and everybody else who ended up winning those St. Jude auctions. I want to make sure that our listeners, one rat, mesh, 4 verts. I think 4 verts is pretty popular at this point, but I want to make sure the listeners that want to learn about scheme from this podcast, even in bite-sized pieces, that we get some explainers whenever you get into that language.
So 1 rat, right? You're playing man across the board. You have a single high safety in zone coverage who's going to try to eliminate the middle of the field with the deep ball, and you have a rat player or a robber player who's essentially playing short zone coverage, generally in the middle of the field. You can shade him to one hash or another who's going to try to rob short stuff. And basically and also you can kind of play one rat with a spy, which I would probably do against Thompson-Robinson because he's fairly mobile. And you're going to try to force the ball, make the offense force the ball to the outside receivers. It's a high risk, high reward defense. It's one that LSU has played for. I mean, Saban played it when he was there, and they've always had
because they've got NFL guys at corner who can be able to.
Yeah, and they run more than that, obviously. But I mean, if you're going to try to outnumber them, they'll play some 3. They may play some roll 2 stuff. But like they're going to force LSU to win on the outside, or UCLA to win on the outside.
Yeah. I was going to say another generic way to think of it too, like the process behind it is, it's kind of like cover 2, except instead of asking your safeties to cover, each get one side of the field and one half, you're basically stacking them on top of each other between the hashes. And that way, the only thing that's going to be open is the outside. So if you don't think your opponent can really beat you to the outside of the hashes, or as the QB or the receivers to do it, it's a pretty solid base to work off of.
And in your review of Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I remember I brought it up on the call, and I think that you had a counter that UCLA was running so much base stuff that maybe the completion percentage maybe isn't the biggest concern, but should it be a concern, especially when we're thinking about trying to make those throws on a 3rd and long, when you're trying to force it down the sideline into one-on-one with wide receivers that we think are probably going to be at a talent disadvantage against LSU's corners?
I think so. Chip, absolutely. If you think LSU is going to win this or if you think UCLA is going to win this football game, rather, you are most likely betting on them having success on early downs and staying out of passing downs. I really don't like their chance with their pure drop back game when non-play action, non-RPO stuff against LSU's pass defense. I think LSU will have a strong pass rush. I really like their secondary, assuming all their guys are, healthy and going to play. I listened to the Go 24/7 podcast, and they've certainly had some dudes out. I think McGlothern's had some issues. I think Stingley was out for a little while, but I think more guys are expected to play than not there, and they're very deep there. If they have to get in 3rd and long type situations, some teams can get out of those. I do not believe that UCLA, given its QB receiver combo, is equipped to do that. They will have to find ways to create explosive plays on early downs with the RPO game, with the hard play action game. And Chip does usually do a pretty good job of scheming some guys just WTFO, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wide the open. We'll see. We'll see if he can do that against LSU.